The following is an encore presentation from WJHG News Channel 7.
Hurricanes, some of the most powerful forces in nature. The edge of the eye of a Category 4 storm can pack sustaining winds of 140 miles an hour, gusts reaching up to 200 miles an hour. The storm surge, 50 feet seas that create walls of water, can rip apart man's most ambitious ventures. As dangerous as the center of hurricanes are, the outer reaches of the east side of the storm can be treacherous. The storm's feeder bands can spin off tornadoes that can cut a path of death and destruction. On September 15, 2004, people in the Florida Panhandle found themselves in the middle of that path. That's the day Hurricane Ivan put us all on the edge of danger. Hello, I'm News Channel 7's Tom Lewis. Thanks for joining us for this News Channel 7 special report, Hurricane Ivan, the edge of danger. Ivan was the worst hurricane to hit our area since October 1995, when a Category 3 hurricane named Opal slammed into the region. Opal caused $3 billion in damages, the fifth costliest disaster in U.S. history. Bay County suffered $30 million in structural damages and spent another $25 million to restore the beaches washed away by the storm surge. Beach erosion was a major concern as Ivan approached the Gulf Coast.
The swells keep growing bigger and bigger. And with that comes the threat of beach erosion.
Without that renourishment, our structural damage right now would begin to be significant. So that is its value on top of it being what people come down here to enjoy.
But even with the restoration project back in 1998, with a storm of this magnitude, you can expect much of the white sugary sands to surrender to the Gulf of Mexico once again.
Nothing was made to withstand a powerful storm. You know, men try to build things that Mother Nature can't trash. You can't do it.
Hurricane Ivan would do less property damage in this part of the Panhandle than Opal, but the massive storm would exact a much higher toll. 6 people in our area would die, killed by a steady line of tornadoes that would terrorize the Panhandle hour after hour. It was apparent early on that Ivan could be a threat to our area. The storm formed off the coast of Africa on September the 2nd.
Tropical satellite will start with Ivan. It's out here in the Atlantic, and it is working its way across. And again, I think Ivan may become a fairly big story later next week. Not quite sure what the particulars are going to be on this down the road, but there are some hints on it, looking at some of the modeling, and it's not good news for the U.S. on that either. Where it formed so far south in latitude and the initial direction that it was taking, we knew that this could have potential to be a U.S. landfalling storm. Then a couple of days later, we started really looking at it going, hey, this could be a Gulf storm, this could be a Florida storm, this could be a Panhandle storm. Then when Ivan became the focal point, we knew that there's going to be problems from Ivan for somewhere in the U.S., and that kept getting narrowed down more in our area.
It held a steady course across the Atlantic Ocean and into the Caribbean. Hurricane Ivan skipped by Grenada, Jamaica, and the Cayman Islands, fluctuating between a Category 3 and Category 5 storm.
We had an opportunity to go on a hurricane hunter flight. They fly C-130s out of Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi. I actually got the call Friday afternoon, September 10th. We were flying out September 11th to go out into Hurricane Ivan. We were on the nighttime flight. The 403rd Air Force Reserve Wing at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi is home to the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron. They're known as hurricane hunters.
The main mission for us is to go down and get all the information in the storm, pressures, and
I'm going to need to get another short
trend that it's going, direction. And we send out all that information back to the National Hurricane Center, and they interpolate it and determine where they think the storm's going to go.
So how do hurricane hunters get all their information? These tubes called dropsondes. The dropsonde operator sends them out of the plane at given times when flying through the storm.
It collects the pressure, temperature, humidity, wind speed, direction, transmits that information back to the aircraft every half second. As soon as it hits the water, I process a message and send all the significant information to the National Hurricane Center in Miami via satellite.
The most exciting part of the flight came when we went through the eye wall of Hurricane Ivan one last time at 6 o'clock Sunday morning. It was our fourth pass through the eye. Here you can see the aircraft radar painting the eye of Ivan. At the time, we were flying at 10,000 feet. Maximum sustained winds inside the eye wall, 155 miles per hour. Once inside the eye, it was very calm. You could see clouds all around, what's known as a stadium effect. While not a cloudless eye, it was still dramatic to see, even when the sun was just rising. What really stood out was the fact that it was a remarkably calm and smooth ride. There was some slight turbulence, but nothing like I had expected. On our way back, we were able to see the Gulf through the clouds. And keep in mind we're 2 miles up. When you can see the Gulf of Mexico moving like this from 2 miles up, you know you're dealing with a monster storm.
These hurricane hunter flights are essential for the National Hurricane Center so they get a better idea of exactly what a hurricane is at the time. I mean, you can look at all kinds of satellite imagery and all kinds of radar, but until you actually get inside the storm, you don't know really what it's doing. And the hurricane hunters are the National Hurricane Center's way, one of the ways, to get these measurements inside the storm.
On September 13th, Ivan skirted by the western tip of Cuba and entered the Gulf of Mexico. Forecast tracks had the powerful storm headed anywhere between Texas's Gulf Coast and the Florida's Atlantic coastline. Many of the projections showed Ivan hitting the Florida Keys, but meteorologist Jason Kelly held steady on his predictions of a panhandle landfall. Over the next 2 days, Ivan proved Jason right.
One thing that we have seen consistently throughout this hurricane season is that there's normally an area of high pressure across the northern Atlantic called the Bermuda High. We see it every year. This year, the Bermuda High was a little bit stronger and further off to the south and to the west. So we were really alerted to the fact there could be a more westerly component, a more westerly shift in the track, and a more westerly threat. And that's why we really sounded the alarm bells as it was crossing south of Cuba, moving through south of Jamaica and places like that. We knew there could be issues for us, and it turned out there were.
For the third time in the last 30 days, Bay County emergency operations officials are preparing for yet another storm. But this time around, the sentiment at the Emergency Operations Center is much different.
What makes this system so different is its intensity and the potential impact that it could have here on our community.
Nothing was decided at this time, but definitely tune into your local TV station or radio station.
And it seems folks at home are starting to realize this time around may be for real. EOC phone operators have received about 100 phone calls already.
For the predictions that we're getting, and as closer that it gets to us, we do expect the call volume to increase.
Her answer to most is to call back later. EOC officials plan to meet again Monday at 1 in the afternoon to decide if they should issue a mandatory evacuation for Bay County and to close schools. For now, it will be business as usual, at least for Monday.
School will be in session, county offices will be open. The EOC will, of course, continue to monitor the situation with Ivan throughout the day. We'll have several more advisories from the Hurricane Center between now and 1 p.m. tomorrow when we meet again, and we hope to have a clearer picture of what Ivan may potentially do once it starts entering into the Gulf of Mexico.
As Ivan approached, the Panhandle began preparing for the worst.
Monday, cutting plywood was the order of business in Walton County. Tuesday, getting the heck out of Dodge. Rosalind Rose and her family plan to join them.
Maybe if it was just my husband and I, we'd wait maybe another day or half a day and leave. But with the 16-month-old, we don't want to take any chances.
At 3 p.m. on Tuesday, county officials made evacuations mandatory for South Walton, low-lying areas south of State Road 20, RV and mobile home parks. Freeport High School has been opened as a shelter, but make sure to come prepared.
Blankets, pillows, anything to keep themselves comfortable. If they have any special diet, to absolutely bring it with them, any medication. Small children bring toys.
The shelter will also house those with special needs.
Anybody with health problems that they usually manage at home but who require electricity.
Those with more severe health issues may need to go to a hospital. But for Rosalind, she used to live in the Florida Keys and has been through several hurricanes.
It's scary, we hid in the closet and, part of our roof came off.
Something she doesn't want to experience again.
News Channel 7 began airing special news and weather coverage several days in advance of the storm. Our plans called for non-stop coverage to begin at 5 o'clock on the evening of September the 15th. But about 3:45 that afternoon, Ivan changed those plans. The first of what would be dozens of tornadoes spun off a Hurricane Ivan feeder band, hitting the Thomas Drive area on Panama City Beach.
You see that lowered cloud base right there. Tornado on the ground. Tornado on the ground. Roll tape on this, somebody. The scientist in me is going, oh, wow, there's a tornado not half a mile from me. The broadcaster in me says, we got to get video of this. We got to get proof of this. We have to get rolling on this. That's the news person part of me. The human part of me goes, this is my town. This was a tornado on the ground in my home, very near where I live, where friends of mine work and live and go to school. That provides a little different impact and a little different perspective on it than you would normally get. Roll tape on this. Get the newsroom involved with this. We have a tornado on the ground. Lightning. Okay, you can see the lightning flashes. Transformers are popping. Tornado on the ground right now on tower cam. Stay with this. Make sure somebody's rolling on this. Okay, lightning flashes as you can see. Tornado on the ground in South Panama City, moving in towards the Bay Point area at this point. Greg, go ahead and back out a little bit. Back out wide. We don't want to get too close. Okay, folks, we have a tornado on the ground. In the meantime, there's a break in the video. We lost power here at the station, so we weren't sure exactly what was going on for about 20 seconds. Are we on the air? Are we on the air? All right, everybody, we have debris. We're back on the air. We just took a power hit here. There's a tornado very close to the TV station. Tornado very close to the TV station at this point. We're getting it rotating right by us. Just okay. The wall. Back out. Okay, it's right on top of us. It's right near the station at this point. If you're, it's okay. It's on top of us right here. Tornado moving across our area as we speak right now, on top of the building. All right, it's here. Everybody, I'll get in the hall. Greg, go get in the hall. Go get in the hall right now.
Everyone came running into the newsroom saying, look at the tower cam, and all eyes focused on one of the monitors we have in the newsroom, and we saw it coming towards us, but I don't think any of us really realized that it was coming straight to the station until we turned the TV up and we heard Jason saying, this is a dangerous situation, there's a tornado on the ground, get into the hall.
So we all got in the hall and just held hands. A few of us were praying. I know I was the only one crying, but that's okay because we made it through. It was just scary.
While I was sitting in the hall, there was a row on either side of the hall, and we felt the door open. The wind opened the door, and we heard the door slam against the wall. And then we saw, I think it was Joe Moore, walk by and just look out the window, and we were all concerned for him. Come on, Joe, get in here. But what was running through my mind was, will we make it out of here? But it wasn't as if we were all that fearful for our own safety. We were concerned about where's it going next.
After it passed, I shook. I couldn't stop shaking. I was crying. It was just amazing, the rush of emotion you get not expecting it. But eventually I calmed down, and now one of my coworkers affectionately calls me Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. So.
Just before we saw the tornado on the tower cam, I was speaking with my wife on the telephone, and she had mentioned that there was debris hitting our roof, and I thought it was just some leaves and branches blowing around hitting the roof, and I told her not to be concerned about it. Of course, about 2 or 3 minutes later, Jason Kelly says tornado on the ground in the Bay Point area, so it literally put my heart into my throat. We then watched the tornado come towards us, and the debris swirling around here at Channel 7. The second the wind died down here and the debris stopped blowing around, I got in the car and made it home in about 6 minutes. Usually it takes me 10, 12 minutes to get home. I could look south on Thomas Drive, and I could see the devastation. I could see the power lines. Some of them were still sparking. They were in the street. And it was obvious that the tornado had come north on Thomas Drive from the Lagoon area.
At that point, News Channel 7's news team launched what would become 27 hours of nonstop storm coverage. One of the first priorities to find out what happened on Thomas Drive.
There is a lot of things going on right now. They have closed down Thomas Drive to North Lagoon and part of North Lagoon. Let's just take a swing around. You can see the sheriff's deputies and some fire trucks down there. We're at the corner of Magnolia and Thomas Drive. Power is out. Just take a look at all the down power lines down here. Gulf Power has just arrived. There was fire trucks from all the districts and some police officers from in town. They have left. They took off with their sirens, so I think something else might be going on. What we know right now, there is one confirmed death. The sheriff's office has reported one confirmed death in this area.
84-year-old John Martin was visiting his daughter's Thomas Drive real estate firm when the tornado struck. It destroyed the business, trapping Martin inside. This tornado also caused some of the worst property damage in our area, smashing dozens of homes on the west side of Thomas Drive. Hamilton's Restaurant, a beach landmark for 2 decades, was destroyed. Owner Steve Stevens was inside the building when the tornado hit.
Tornado, it's a tornado. I said, this is the real thing. And I jumped down. Right as it hit, the window exploded. I hit the deck. I hit the ground in the lounge area between the booth, and the glass was shattering, and it sounded like an explosion. And I was crawling my way to the bathroom, and I got in a corner there in the restroom with my dogs were here. I'm very fortunate to be alive. I'm sorry about my business, and I'm sorry about the loss for my employees.
Stevens says it will take millions to rebuild, and many things cannot be replaced by an insurance claim. But that won't stop him from trying.
You know, I just want to thank the people of Bay County and tell them I'll be back and I'll be here. And, I might be down, but I'm not out.
Bay County emergency management officials sprung into action, rushing to provide assistance and closing all of Thomas Drive. Amy, what can you tell us about this right now?
Well, Tom, right now, in fact, we may even have another tornado that is threatening the area. At the EOC, which is where I am right now, they just came in and said we need to be very careful because a tornado is heading this way, here to downtown Panama City.
It wasn't long before emergency officials had a second catastrophe on their hands. Another tornado plowed through eastern Bay County, destroying several homes in Allenton. Again, the first warnings came from Jason Kelly and Viper.
And right in here, possible tornado in this area right here. We back out and moving in towards Panama City at this point. Another possible tornado developing north of Tyndall Air Force Base along the bay, moving towards Panama City. Need to be in a place of safety.
77-year-old Nancy King was inside her Allenton home when the tornado struck. She was killed. Her 10-year-old grandson Andrew was badly burned when a water heater fell on him. A few houses away, Jewel Mingy and her husband watched the twister bear down on their Allenton neighborhood.
And we saw the spout, and about that time the spout hit the water splattered up and was just churning up around it, and it was headed right straight for us. So we jumped up and we ran inside.
The couple got only a few steps inside when the house started to shake. When a 2x4 flew through their wall, the Mangys looked outside to see what was breaking up. Next door, they saw this. Longtime neighbor and friend Nancy King didn't make it to the bathroom where the rest of her family took cover from the tornado.
Called 911, and he started over there to see what he could do to help because we suspicion that they were still in there.
Since then, Mangy says the outpouring has been overwhelming. Mangy says those helping hands made all the difference in the days following Ivan as families sifted through 30 years of memories and rubble.
The problems weren't over for Bay County. Another tornado hit the Parker area, destroying over 70 homes. And the carnage continued. Tornado after tornado came out of Ivan's feeder bands and swept across the panhandle like airliners lining up to land at a major airport. The Storm Track 7 Viper weather team tracked each one, giving warnings as they approached.
Wow, big hook echo right there coming on near Indian Pass at this point. Wow, well defined. Okay, this one here is still offshore. We've got a little ways to go on that one. Go back here, right there, a wicked hook echo. The tornado would be developing somewhere in this general area right here. There you can see it moving in towards Indian Pass at this point, just off to the south, just slightly south and off to the west of Apalachicola at this time. Another one offshore that will have to be monitored over time. These storms that we saw were not tropical storm, hurricane, feeder band tornadoes that we see typically. These are more like Great Plains tornadoes. These were the things you see on the Weather Channel or on documentaries on the Discovery Channel where you have these big wedge F3, F4 tornadoes. That's what we saw, and I've never heard of another hurricane producing this many tornadoes of that strength over such a small time frame. It was an amazing event.
The most devastating part of the storm was still to come. Around 8 o'clock, a powerful tornado swept through Calhoun County. It hit a small neighborhood just northwest of Blountstown. The results? Total destruction and, sadly, 4 more deaths.
typically with tropical systems, you get F0, F1s tornadoes, but not devastating tornadoes, not ones that actually flatten buildings and demolish them off their foundations. And seeing that video come back from there was amazing.
The debris resembles an explosion. A television sits in a pile of rubble, its screen unbroken, while a nearby microwave is missing its door. These 3 vehicles are parked at the pad of what used to be a mobile home. It was picked up and then carried several hundred yards and now rests on the other side of the road. Everyone inside perished as the frame of the mobile home wrapped around a once large but now splintered tree.
I'm the only mobile home left standing, and it passed over my family, and they're there, and I want to get home to see them.
Juanice Johnson lives in the compound. She had left to take her mother to a special needs shelter at the local hospital.
And when I called, the windows were blowing out of my house, and my neighbors were calling for help, and my brother was the first one there. And I called the sheriff's department from the hospital. And the next thing I knew, they were all coming to the hospital severely injured or deceased.
At least 4 mobile homes were destroyed.
It came from the east, right over yonder, come right across through there, a friend of mine's trailer, come right across here.
Neighbor Wani Abbott says the ordeal lasted no more than 3 minutes.
Extremely lucky because, like I said, other people had a lot worse damage than I had, and a lot of people lost their life. So I feel extremely lucky.
Abbott credits news reports with saving his life by sending him to the safety of his bathtub, but from the total destruction just a few hundred yards away, nothing short of being somewhere else could have saved those who died.
By now, thousands of people across the Florida Panhandle were tuning in to watch News Channel 7 and Viper. Thousands more who'd lost electricity tuned into News Channel 7's coverage via radio. We would like to welcome our listening audience as well. We are being simulcast on several radio stations throughout the Panhandle. First, media partners, Clear Channel Radio of Panama City and Quantum Broadcasting and Carter Broadcasting in Okaloosa and Walton counties simulcast the News Channel 7 coverage live. When the deadly Calhoun County tornado continued north into Jackson County, viewers and listeners near Marianna credited Viper's advanced warnings with saving their lives.
We were constantly going back between the Viper and Street by Street looking for these signatures, which were basically nonstop since about 3 in the afternoon. So when I saw this one come up, it was the most pronounced one we'd seen thus far, even stronger than the one that had hit the station earlier in the day. And when I saw it, I went, wow. And I remember just telling the folks up in Marianna, hey, you need to take shelter right now. I mean, this thing is barreling in on you.
The destruction in the Marianna area was almost indescribable.
We heard sound like a locomotive, and we all got up under the stairwell.
Marvin Couch is just one of 2,000 plus residents in Jackson County without power, but in his case, it doesn't matter. He no longer has a livable home.
This is a custom-built home, and it stood, but we were just fortunate because everything inside was flying around just like there's a vacuum in the house.
After doing its damage, that tornado moved on, but it was not done affecting Marvin's family just yet.
Tornado came through, like I said, the southeast sector of the house here and went straight across here. My mother-in-law's house is probably about a quarter of a mile down the road, and it just swept the path all the way through here, and then that's when it hit my mother-in-law's house.
Today, Marvin's son, Kevin, was a part of the cleanup effort at his grandmother's house. Cora Marks says she's lived in this house for over 50 years.
That's 85, and I've been living here since I was about 33.
As repair crews continue to restore Jackson County back to a state of normalcy, this family just continues to count their blessings.
The storm destroyed homes in 3 different mobile home communities. Fortunately, many of those homeowners had listened to the warnings and evacuated. The twister also hit an industrial park, heavily damaging the Sykes Customer Service telephone call answering center. Ironically, Jackson County emergency management officials were considering that building as a possible emergency shelter once Sykes shut down operations later in the year. Amazingly, amid all of this destruction, no one was seriously hurt. The same band of tornadoes then threatened southeastern Alabama. The News Channel 7 team put out the warning for the people of Dothan.
We have multiple indications of rotations in this storm. Viper lighting up like a Christmas tree, and when we see this tells us we've got a tornado on the ground, and we've already had confirmation of that near Cypress. So this looks like it's going to move into southern Houston County, over here towards Geneva County, probably south of Dothan, moving in towards the Enterprise area. You can see all the towns coming up. These are towns that could be in the path of this possible storm. Wicksburg, all these areas right in here. You are next with this storm as it moves off to the north and to the east. We were alerted about midway through the event that the Dothan coverage area, the Dothan television coverage area, there were some technical issues with coverage up there that some of the stations up there weren't able to get on the air. At that point, we made a snap decision, a judgment decision at that time to go ahead and begin to cover the southeastern Alabama counties like we would cover our Florida counties. I wasn't as familiar with the geography of those locations, but again, Viper and Storm Track 7 Street by Street took care of that for me. So it allowed us to shift our coverage while still covering Florida to be able to go into southeast Alabama and help our neighbors and our friends up there as well.
Another of Ivan's tornadoes struck in Holmes County.
This site is one of 9 homes that were lost in Holmes County that night.
We seen, on the news where it was close, and we heard it and ran. We were in what was the foyer and just stood by the wall. We were huddled together praying and felt the house falling around us.
30 years of memories in this house was reduced to a pile of rubble within minutes.
I was amazed. I couldn't believe it. I was upset, but I was so glad that we were all still here. Everything. We were all okay.
As for Leah and her family, it may take years to replace what Ivan took within minutes.
To the west, in Walton and Okaloosa counties, the story wasn't tornadoes. It was the traditional dangers associated with a hurricane the size of Ivan.
Have we had any major damage reported in Walton County yet that you're aware of?
None that we're aware of. I'm sure there's quite a bit on the beach that has not been observed or taken note of because we can't get down to assess it yet.
First light, I guess, get out and check the situation and see what we have?
Yes, sir. That's the plan. We're just going to all stay inside and stay safe until it's over with, and we'll get out at first light when the winds die down and see what we have.
Okaloosa County, Ms. Tucker, obviously is a pretty intense area right now as this storm is coming through. What can you tell us is going on in Okaloosa?
Well, here in the EOC, we lost power about 7 o'clock, so we're under generator power, and most of the south end of the county is out of power. We've got winds at 43 and gusts at 70, and right now we're just hunkering down and waiting for the storm to go by.
Has anyone called in from the coastal areas in Okaloosa County?
We had a mandatory evacuation that started at noon yesterday for coastal areas, low-lying areas, mobile homes, and trailers. Unfortunately, not everyone heeded that advice, and now they're calling and they're having water on the first floor or water in the parking lot, getting ready to come in the doors. Highway 98 between the Destin Bridge and the Brooks Bridge was closed early this afternoon. I was out there assessing some damage as early as about noon this afternoon, and there was already water coming across in 2 places on Highway 98. Hopefully we won't lose the road like we did before, and it'll just be water going over the top, but that's all it was at that time.
Around 1 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, September 16th, the eye of Hurricane Ivan made landfall near Mobile, Alabama. The dangerous and destructive east side of the eye wall passed over Pensacola, unleashing a deadly assault on the West Florida region. Conditions only slightly improved as you move to the east, with most of the region cowering in the dark. By this time, most of Northwest Florida was under a mandatory curfew.
Talked with the sheriff earlier, and Sheriff Frank McKeithen, Bay County Sheriff, and he's calling this curfew a lifesaver. He says it's really helped out law enforcement. He says they're stopping cars that are out there. They're giving them one warning, and then if they have to stop them again, they're taking action. The Bay County Commission actually passed a resolution tonight, and that makes it legal for the police to come out and escort you to your homes or give you a ticket or arrest you or do whatever the case may be, as if you are out after that curfew, which of course started tonight at 9 o'clock for Bay County. It will end tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. So officials are warning, even though the sun comes up 5:30, 6 o'clock in our area, doesn't mean you can go outside. Doesn't mean it's time to start roaming around and go sightseeing. You shouldn't be sightseeing at all, and you should definitely not be sightseeing before that curfew ends at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning.
In the Panhandle, families huddled in the safest place they could find in their homes, hanging on every word they heard coming out of their TVs or radios. In Bay County, all but the Clear Channel radio stations lost power. That meant Jason Kelly and the Viper Storm Track 7 Weather Center team was the only lifeline they had to find out exactly where the storm would strike next. By morning, the true extent of Ivan's effects on the Panhandle became apparent. The hurricane-force winds and pounding surf were still whipping across the region at first light. Most of Bay County's waterfront areas suffered some minor flooding.
After Ivan, it was more catastrophic damage. Lynn Haven had some flooding problems, not nearly what they were in Opal. Lynn Haven didn't take nearly as much of a hit during Ivan as it did during Opal. But other places took more of a hit during Ivan than they did Opal. The Allenton area took a tremendous hit from the tornado there. The Thomas Drive area out here by Hamilton's and Captain Anderson's took a tremendous hit from the tornadoes. The state park took a tremendous hit from the same hurricane that went over the station here. It just sliced a path right through the campground area.
But surprisingly, Panama City Beach did not suffer nearly as much damage as first thought.
We're not where we were with Opal. As the major says and the chief, the wind has stayed quartering out of the southeast, and that has kept the water from, I believe, like they do, from being pushed up over the roadway like it was in Opal. The wind has been harder on us than I thought it would be, and the significant damage that I see, and it's not it's just not where we have been before, is out of the wind. The gas pumps here, some signs, some roofs, very few trees. The other great thing right now is that Front Beach, Middle Beach, and Back Beach roads are passable. I think we lost a tree out over the Back Beach in Alf Coleman. But other than that, we're looking as good as we can look. And when you consider what we've been through, that's pretty good. I think probably the most disheartening thing about it all is the fact that people lost their life. If we could take that away and we had to deal with what we've dealt with, I would be pleased with it. But it's just been horrible. We've lost people not only here but all around us.
There were homes on the west end with heavy flooding and several feet of sand piled up inside.
Those people, it took out the entire south wall, the plate glass windows, the sliding glass doors, and put at least 1 to 2 foot of sand and water into the units.
But no one's complaining because after Hurricane Opal, there was nothing left to come home to. And again, they will rebuild and await the next storm.
I've talked to every owner in here, and I've not heard one owner yet saying they want to sell their units. Everybody's going to rebuild it back up.
Just next door at the Shoreline Villas, the people are digging out the carports under layers of sand to see what damage is done.
Well, the big problem is we've got about 15 inches of sand underneath our driveway here, and we've got a roof missing on the other side, so we got the roofing guys up making sure the water doesn't come in.
He too says the damage is extensive, but better than Opal.
We bought the place in Thanksgiving, and the next October, nothing was here. Well, nothing, like from number 8 up was here. Everything below that was gone.
Trees and power poles were down. There was debris strewn all over the roadways, and there were structural damages all over the area. The biggest problem may have been beach erosion, but the damage was nothing compared to the destruction caused by Opal 9 years earlier.
The beach was sacrificed, but it saved all the upland structures. There was minimal damage done to the structures of Panama City Beach. I've had folks that were adamantly opposed to that project call me up and come by and say, you might have been right on that one.
Neighborhoods and sections around Thomas Drive were another story.
By mid-afternoon Thursday, the sheriff's office gave us a call and said that they were, if we got a reporter and a camera person to the intersection of Thomas Drive and Magnolia, that they would escort us down Thomas Drive, so we would be able to take like a video tour of sorts, starting on Magnolia Beach Boulevard on Thomas Drive and heading south. So one of the reporters and myself, it was Alana Adams, she drove, and I just stuck the camera out the car, and we...
Starting at Magnolia Beach and Thomas Drive, you could see the first visual image of what a tornado can do. Driving south on the west side of Thomas Drive, almost every building has significant damage. The only thing visibly left intact inside the Waffle House is a gumball machine. The damage does get worse as we get closer to Hamilton's restaurant where the tornado first hit. From Magnolia Beach Drive south to Hamilton's, there is really nothing left. I mean, it is just complete destruction on both sides of the road, damage all over the place. Everyone that boarded up and left this area will be very glad when they see this video. Pots and pans scattered Hamilton's parking lot under thick wires and debris right near Hamilton's. We caught up with one man who left just half an hour before the tornado hit just next door.
I mean, what can you say? It's catastrophic. It looks like a bomb went off. I mean, I don't know what can you say, you know? I mean, look around. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm actually really fortunate. That's all I can say. I left right before the tornado came through. I left a little after 3, and I saw it when I was driving down Thomas Drive. and all the roads were blocked off. They weren't letting anyone in. I finally just got back in a little while ago. But that's it. Wow.
Talking with Representative Alan Bentz as he too surveyed the damage, says it really becomes personal when it's his hometown that's hurt.
This is pretty bad. My heart goes out to those folks that didn't make it through the storm and those that were injured. I hope that we all say a moment of prayer for those folks. And it's time for us now to get back and put the pieces back together. And we're from Northwest Florida, and we're pretty resilient up here. And it's time now to wipe our brow and shake our head and let's go forward and clean up and get back to life. It'll take us a while to get back to normal, but it's bad. But we can't just sit back and do nothing. It's time to get back to work.
The devastation was unbelievable. Even though I'd gotten a quick glimpse of it on Wednesday as I headed home, it's a cliche to say, and television never prepares you for the actual damage. When we got down there, it was unbelievable. We got to see firsthand the damage that the tornado had rained down, so to speak, on the Thomas Drive area. We also spoke to a couple of the residents of that area. They live just north of Hamilton's on North Lagoon there, and we got to speak to them. And they were feeling very fortunate, even though their homes were damaged or in some cases totaled. They were feeling very fortunate because they either weren't home at the time or they were home and they were able to take cover and were left relatively unhurt.
Local authorities sealed off the Thomas Drive area to the general public for nearly a week. They did the same thing with parts of Parker, where the tornado damaged or destroyed over 70 homes.
I guess I'm one of the ones that we normally think of tornadoes around here. We think of the little water spouts we see scooting in and blowing over a tree or something. But nothing. I didn't expect what I was seeing.
The skies have cleared, and residents in Parker have already begun to assess the damage. Although the worst of Ivan didn't directly hit Panama City, many people were shocked by the number of tornadoes that tore through the area. Several twisters touched down in Bay County, one of them here in Parker. And those who came in close contact with the tornado are more than grateful that they can live to tell the story.
I was inside and I was just sitting on my sofa when I jumped up and ran in the kitchen, and I heard my friends yell tornado, and when I turned around I saw the tree come straight through my living room.
It was a couple of inches that saved Susan's life, but for another Parker resident, it was a tree that came between him and imminent danger.
And about 2:30 this morning, that's when we started hearing all the commotion. And thank God for the other tree. It's what saved us.
Fortunately for him and his family, the power was already off when the tree collided with the power lines in his front yard. Now that the worst is behind us, neighbors are pitching in to restore their neighborhood to its original condition.
Oh, well, you can sit in the house so long, but when the sun comes out, the people does also.
But he and his neighbor don't plan on doing all the work by themselves.
If we want to get the heavy stuff and let our wives finish the rest of it.
There were testaments to Ivan's sheer force scattered all over the Panhandle.
The morning of the 15th, we went out to the county pier to do our regularly scheduled live shot. We went out a little bit earlier, though, because we knew the storm was coming. And I knew that there'd be big waves out there. Having been a long-time surfer in this area, when we hear tropical storms or hurricanes, we know big waves are coming. I really had no idea how big it would be. I anticipated large surf, but we saw very big surf, and it was increasing in size by the hour. When I got there, it was about 5 foot. And during the morning from daybreak till we left, which was around 10 or 11 o'clock, it had doubled in size, easily doubled in size. We even saw a couple surfers try to go out and they couldn't make it out, the current being so strong and the waves so large, it was impossible to surf. But it was a definite signal of what was out there, the strength of the storm, what was coming.
The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission's 85-foot rescue boat, named the J.J. Brown, broke loose from its mooring during Ivan. The 40-ton vessel floated harmlessly under the Hathaway Bridge, winding up 5.5 nautical miles away. It came to rest on the shores of North Bay, surrounded by a foot of water and seagrass beds. Needing at least 6 feet of water to float, state officials spent weeks trying to salvage the boat and put it back into service. To the east, Ivan pounded Gulf County's coastline. Cape San Blas took the brunt of the storm. 2 homes were completely destroyed. Ivan's winds and surf washed away the sand, decking, and pavement around 30 or so other homes, leaving them totally isolated, a 50-foot drop next to them.
The main danger is somebody actually walking out there
There's no sand underneath supporting some of the slabs, and just somebody's body weight could add an extra 150, 200 pounds, and that could cause the slab to collapse and then collapse it on top of the person walking out there.
Many of those homeowners could not get to their property. The only access road on the Cape was washed out. In Mexico Beach, people were surprised to find the canal leading into the Gulf was not so much a canal anymore as it was a sandbar. The storm had filled the waterway with beach sand.
Emergency management people had a chance to go out and look and see what kind of damage had been done and where power lines were down and what kind of things were they could expect before they could make that call about when to lift the curfew. Of course, it's on everybody's mind. Everybody at home listening on the radio, watching television, folks that still had power. Once the storm started waning, everybody wants to know, when can I go home? When can I go back outside? When can I get back to my regular life? And it's the same thing with emergency management officials, too. They want to know when they can do all these things. But that decision cannot be made until everybody knows exactly what they can expect.
By Thursday afternoon, some evacuees began to trickle back into their areas to see how their homes fared. Many were shocked by what they found. Others relieved that they still had a home. And some were annoyed by those who had no business being there.
We're all right.
Emergency operations officials lifted a mandatory curfew around noon today, opening the floodgates to anxious evacuees eager to get home. Most were happy with what they found.
So Gary, I guess you guys were lucky here then.
Yeah, very, very lucky. It looks like we're within probably half, 3/4 of a mile from some major damage, and we bit the bullet this time.
We're a lot luckier than a lot of people.
Other folks just miles away were much less fortunate.
I'm thankful to be alive.
Steve Brown's house is unlivable. A tornado ripped through his Panama City Beach home Wednesday afternoon, littering his yard with trees and ripping apart his roof. Although he's happy to be home, he's unimpressed by how the county has handled the homecoming.
I have a real problem with all the sightseers coming by. It seems like the county would do something, check ID, driver's license for addresses to see if people live out here before they come into this neighborhood. Because if they'll let people ride in here like this, just to sightsee, what happens tonight or tomorrow as far as people wanting to come in here and steal my property?
For people who evacuated from the area, a lot of them took their personal computers with them. They were able to get out of town and check back in and see if they couldn't get our signal off the air. If they had evacuated further out of the area, they could check back in and see exactly what was going on. News Channel 7 heavily involved in the internet, and during the particular storm period, for the whole month, we had over 880,000 web page hits to our internet. And the research shows that a good percentage of these were actually people looking for information on the Hurricane Ivan, during the month of September. The sections dealing with evacuations, with the orders that happened to be in effect from government officials at that time, and the recovery that's taking place now.
As the last bag of ice and bottle of water is distributed here in our area, Red Cross officials are already setting their sights on a new initiative.
God bless you, Daddy. Thank you.
Helping those families with homes damaged or destroyed.
We didn't have as much damage by far as our neighbors to the west, and I think people should be concentrating on that. And remember that those folks who lost their homes here, whose homes were damaged here by the storm, they're the ones that we're concentrating on trying to make sure that we do the best job for them that we can.
A family service center is now open at the Parker Sports Complex. Red Cross volunteers are touring areas hardest hit to complete damage assessments. If you meet their qualifications, you could receive food, clothes, and possibly even shelter until your insurance claim is complete. Although the comfort station at the Bay County Fairgrounds is now closed, the Red Cross will continue to man the ice and water station in Parker. The emergency response vehicle may also continue its tour of local communities, and all their hard work is certainly not going unnoticed.
I called the Red Cross as last hope, and because I knew they were busy, and within an hour they were here, and it was a wonderful thing, you know.
And even when all the calls for help are answered, these Red Cross volunteers don't just plan to throw in the towel. Instead, they'll be heading out west to help other victims of Hurricane Ivan.
Ivan dealt its worst blow to the areas west of Bay County. Power outages were more widespread, flooding more prevalent, and thousands of evacuees struggled to return home.
Firefighters in South Walton County say we dodged a bullet. Ivan swept through the county, leaving no reported injuries, no deaths. Much of the damage in South Walton lies in the west end of the county. Thankfully, most of it cosmetic. Here, the roof of the Circle K on Highway 98 near Sandestin lies in the street. Next door at the Sleep Inn, walls from the second floor have been ripped off the building due to wind. Over on Scenic Gulf Drive, a living room sits exposed to the air. South Walton firefighters began surveying the damage early this morning.
First goal is to make sure it's safe for people to come back. The roads that I've seen today, it's going to be a while before the roads are safe for the general public to come back in.
Heavy flooding continues to be a problem. This is County Road 393. This morning, already covered in water. 2 miles down sits the Choctawhatchee Bay. Also in North Walton County, streets like Indian Woman Road are flooded.
I've been here for 8 years. This is by far the worst storm South Walton has suffered in the 8 years I have seen. We saw probably what I would describe as moderate to minor damage overall to most of the structures that were damaged. We certainly didn't suffer the losses we could have, and I continue to think that our main loss is going to be the beaches.
Firefighters say the breakers have crossed the dune line in several areas. Here was the public beach access point at Miramar Beach. The parking lot has washed into the ocean. The bathroom, all that remains. Officials expect the flooding to get worse. All of Walton County remains under a curfew until further notice.
Erosion and flooding washed out vital roadways, some taking weeks, even months to repair. That made the relief and recovery effort more difficult. Ivan washed out part of Highway 98 between Destin and Fort Walton Beach, and the 3-mile bridge between Gulf Breeze and southern Pensacola remained closed until bridge inspectors could check it for structural damages. The Interstate 10 bridge between Milton and northern Pensacola was destroyed by 20-foot seas in Escambia Bay. That left Pensacola virtually cut off from the rest of Florida. The only access for first responders and relief workers was Highway 90, which was backed up for hours.
Near Pensacola, the storm battered multi-million-dollar homes along the beach and turned downtown buildings into piles of rubble, leaving residents who rode out the storm happy to be alive.
The snapping and the cracking and the crashing was unreal, and it was scary. It was scary.
This morning, as many residents get a first look at their homes, damage estimates could continue to rise. Ivan's path of destruction already very apparent. Just to the east, the powerful winds demolished a bridge on Interstate 10, stranding many at the Florida state line.
I don't know anything right now. They won't let us go back on the island for about 48 hours. I don't know if I even have a home.
And all this debris, it's going to be a cleanup for weeks. And power, it's going to be weeks.
Still, people in the hardest hit areas pressed on.
At the Shell gas station just east of the Destin Bridge, Hurricane Ivan sure left his mark.
Our whole canopy is gone. You can see all the wires. Right now we have no electricity, no phone. We can't sell gas or anything right now.
Hello, bridge is closed. It's bad enough. Close the bridge.
Parts of Highway 98 on Okaloosa Island have been destroyed, forcing deputies to keep people out. Residents can get to the island Saturday at 1. The Walmart Supercenter in Destin, super no more. Windows from the second floor of the First National Bank sit on the ground. Over on Holiday Isle, construction crews spent most of the day clearing sand off the road. Near the Jetty's East condos, this parking lot looks more like a pool. This pool looks more like the beach. This boat ran aground. This boat wasn't so lucky. But amidst all the damage, a bit of political humor and a sense that it could have been much worse.
I think we dodged a bullet. I think everything held up pretty well. We're putting it back together. We've got power ready, and we're looking to be open this evening.
I thought it was going to be worse, but we're glad it wasn't worse.
Now comes the hard part, picking up the pieces.
In less than 12 hours, nearly every man, woman, and child in the Panhandle began to yearn for the things they had taken for granted just 24 hours earlier: roadways and electricity. Utility crews fanned out across the Panhandle, determining where they could restore power quickly and which areas would need extensive work. The recovery process went quickly in most areas, painfully slow in others. Some Walton County schools and Okaloosa County schools were closed for more than a week due to minor damages and the power outages. As people began piecing their lives together, Hurricane Ivan moved inland over the southeastern United States. By now, a tropical storm, Ivan flooded parts of Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Virginia, causing millions more in damages. Then a bizarre twist.
The main part of Ivan got mixed up in a cold front and moved off across the North Atlantic, but a little piece of the center of circulation broke off from that and headed south. And it was real quiet. Nobody really noticed it that much, although we had outlined that it actually could happen. It moved down the East Coast, came back inland around West Palm Beach, caused a few showers and thunderstorms around Miami, moved across the peninsula, back into the Gulf, and reformed as a tropical storm again south of Louisiana, and moved onshore into the Louisiana-Texas border around Lake Charles, Louisiana. We were concerned for a while that the remnant of Ivan, the second time, might move into the Bay of Campeche and redevelop again. Luckily, that didn't happen. People were writing me, sending me emails going, how did that happen? Where did it come from? Has it ever happened before? Hurricanes can do unusual things, but again, Ivan. We've coined him in the weather office Crazy Ivan, and the name fits because there were so many things about Ivan that were unusual. His reluctance to hit land initially. You noticed if you look at the forecast, the historical track moved around Jamaica, around the Caymans, around Cuba, avoiding land and never weakening. The reemergence into the Gulf, but Ivan will certainly go down from a meteorological standpoint and from a local impact standpoint in the history books.
My impression of the whole experience is we came together as a team, and that really meant a lot to not only those of us who work here, but for the folks out in this area that have called and emailed and told us, what a tremendous job you did in saving lives. And it's not anything that we did. We just kind of did it on impulse. This is just instinct for us. But to hear that the people who are grateful, that means the most.
One of the bigger lessons, if not the lesson that we have learned, is that evacuation is so important. You wonder sometime when you're sitting in the studio here if people are paying heed to the warnings, to the recommendations that they evacuate, whether they're going to stay, whatever their particular individual case might be. So the best idea is to get out and pick a place now where you think you will want to go should another storm head this way, whether it be next month, whether it be next year, 5 years from now. Don't just count on, I'll drive to Albany and get a motel room. That doesn't work because 10,000 other people have done the same thing, and maybe 500 of them were able to find a room.
Although we've been talking more about the immediacy of the event more than we have been the science of the event. The science of the event is something that we're just now starting to delve into. Been working with the staff of the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Tallahassee, various other organizations that are working on the post-analysis of the storm, going through the data and finding out, okay, what happened, exactly how did it happen, and can we do anything to mitigate this in the future, or build a better forecast, learning on what we discovered from Ivan. But the scale of this, the intensity of the storms themselves is somewhat unprecedented. I've been going through the archives. You occasionally will see something like this happen in Texas, landfalling tropical cyclones or hurricanes. You don't rarely ever see it like this on the East Coast. It's mostly a Gulf phenomenon. It's mostly a Texas phenomenon, and certainly not of this magnitude in anything that I've found. So again, we're looking at something that may be very much unique in the historical record, something we haven't seen before.
In the end, experts estimate Ivan caused $10 billion in damages, making it the second costliest disaster in U.S. history behind 1992's Hurricane Andrew. It could take years to restore some areas to pre-storm conditions. Others will never be the same, forever lost to the forces of nature. Then there's the losses that insurance can't cover, priceless keepsakes, lifetimes of memories, lost in just mere seconds. More than 130 people lost their lives to Hurricane Ivan during its nearly 3-week reign of terror over the U.S. and Caribbean. And that will be the killer storm's most tragic legacy. I'm Tom Lewis. From all of us here at News Channel 7, thanks for tuning in to Hurricane Ivan, the Edge of Danger.
Understands what an insignificant little creature he is when he deals with Mother Nature. You prepare and then you become an observer, then you become an observer until she's through, and when she's through, then you just come try to patch it and fix it.
Got this tractor trailer behind you now. Where was this a few minutes ago?
It was approximately about 50 feet from where it is now, going that direction.
It was like 4:30 yesterday afternoon, and me and my buddy was sitting on my porch, and we actually seen the tornado come through here. We actually see everything was just like a gray collar. Next thing I know, I walk in my house, and that's what I see.
We ain't got no plywood. Plywood train is coming.
We were just playing cards, sitting at the table, and just all of a sudden you could hear this wind just blowing in you. And I opened the front door to see everything headed to my left that way. We slammed it and got in the bathroom underneath our stairs. This is what you see now, what's left.
The 2004 hurricane season will be one that the residents of our area will not soon forget. WJHG is offering DVD and VHS duplications of Hurricane Ivan, The Edge of Danger, for only $19.95. For your copy, send a check or money order to WJHG Hurricane Ivan Special, 8195 Front Beach Road, Panama City Beach, Florida, 32407.